peeps and creeps, and welcome to Fright Club. I'm Gav, he's Danny.
Hello.
We're the Fright Club and this is a brand new episode of Monday Night Frights. On tonight's show, we're talking about Joe Dante's sequel to one of his best films. It's Gremlins II, the new batch.
I fucking love Gremlins.
The show must go on, so let us ladle up some of our chowder noodles.
And we're back with episode 5.2 of Monday Night Frights, and a very exciting episode tonight, Danny.
Mm-hmm.
One of our favourite films ever is Gremlins, and we've already covered Gremlins in a previous episode, which you can see up here somewhere.
We'll link somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, but tonight we're talking about the fantastic and bizarre sequel, which was out in 1990. It is Gremlins 2, The New Batch.
I love this movie because it just takes all the notions of the first film and rolls with it, and then it throws in some pop culture, throws in some questionable humor at times. Like going back and watching it now, I was like, that's a little racist.
Yeah.
I mean, more, yeah. I'm talking. There's that there, and even when they first go into the curiosity shop, and they're talking about, making this new Chinatown, and it's like where business is oriented.
Oh, yeah,
and I was like, oh,
fuck's sake. I know. There's so many little one-liners in this that you sort of catch now that you maybe didn't catch the first couple of times you watched it.
Yeah.
But yeah, great film. Before we even get into the film, though, we needed to make an announcement because we neglected to announce this on our Scrooged episode 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
This season, we're going to do episodes every 2 weeks, so it's going to be a fortnightly show.
Yeah, fair. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just because we've got a lot of stuff happening in our personal lives, and
busy boys.
We're going to try this for a season anyway, and we're going to see what it's like. And if not, we'll just go back to weekly. So
yeah, let us know in the comments how you feel about that. But for now, this season 5 shall be a fortnightly.
Yeah, I'll still be 13 episodes.
Yeah,
with maybe a bonus episode here or there. But, I'll just be spaced out a little bit further, so it'll last a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We're like Duracell.
We go on and on and on.
I know. But anyway, yeah, Gremlins 2, fucking amazing.
Even before you get into the film, you have a fucking Chuck Taylor,
I know,
Looney Tunes animation before the film even starts. Chuck Jones, Chuck Taylor, Converse. Chuck Jones.
And this week's episode is sponsored by Converse.
Brought to you by Converse. That was intentional, folks. But yeah, you get that great reanimation of Bugs Bunny riding in on the Warner Brothers shield, and then Daffy's like, no, let's change things up. I'm the talent here. I'm going to ride in on the shield. And then he ends up, the shield crashes into the screen, and he's like, all right, well, if you aren't going to play it my way, just start the film. And then you get that lovely aerial shot over New York City, and just great way to start the movie.
It's a great way to start the movie. Happy New Year, by the way, everybody.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Once again. We're so excited to talk about this movie that we're
missing all the announcements. I'm so ready to talk Gremlins too. I fucking love Gremlins.
Yes, Happy New Year. Hope you had a great New Year and great Christmas. Obviously, we had a fantastic New Year, didn't we, Danny?
Yes.
Whatever we thought.
We came up with New Year's resolutions. I've decided to start applying bowling ball wax to my head to make it even shinier. There you go. If you haven't noticed.
Brilliant. I'm going to dye my beard completely grey.
Nice.
We'll see how that works out. But
look like Santa Claus.
Every week or every 2 weeks, I should say. Caught you out there. It's going to be a little bit more grey going to my beard.
Just leveling up until you go Super Saiyan.
This time next year, when it's our next Christmas episode, whatever we're doing, I'll be just proper grey.
Full Santa. Yep.
I know, but no, Happy New Year, guys. Yes, hopefully 2022 is going to be a little bit better than the last 2 years.
It's going to be the year that we make it back to some sort of normal. Touch wood. Touch.
No. Anyway, yes, so Joe Dante is back in the director's seat for Gremlins 2.
Yeah.
We love Joe Dante. Like we
love
we
a wee
spoke
bit
about
Dante.
him quite a bit in previous episodes. We love him.
We love him. We do.
We love him.
He's just a lovely man.
He's a wild, nice man.
And he makes some lovely movies.
Oh, he's well good at his job.
He's well good at his job. Well good.
He's no bad.
And this one, I feel like this is the movie where Joe Dante really got to like let loose.
Yeah. So he didn't want to do. Obviously, he's never really done sequels. He didn't want to do a sequel to the original film.
Yeah.
Because it was hugely successful. It was a bit of a surprise success actually. But Warner Brothers apparently, literally the week after it opened, Warner Brothers contacted Dante and was like, "Let's do a sequel, or let's at least start discussing a sequel." And he was dead against it. He didn't want to do it.
Yep.
And then he was, his arm was twisted eventually because, he was given full control. He was like, "Look, after a few years, by the way, of developmental and other directors maybe being rumored to come in, they went back to Dante and said, "Look, you've got full reign here. Do whatever you want, as long as it's got Gremlins in it. Yep. We'll give you, I think they tripled the budget."
I mean, you can kind of tell that it's definitely a far bigger budget because there are so many more Gremlins. So many. Like, I mean, it looks like there's a lot in the first film, but it's because, again, the matte paintings it's all special effects. Whereas this one, there's a lot of Gremlins, like physical Gremlins in the movie, and not just your average Gremlin, but like unique character Gremlins and different traits. And
that was I think another thing was that he wanted to expand it a little bit, and he was like, "Look, let's just have fun with it." And it wasn't Chris Columbus that wrote this script. It was a guy called Charlie Haas, who had previously been an uncredited writer on Tron, and he also would go on to write the screenplay for Matinee, which obviously Dante directed a couple years after this.
Yep.
So they really went just balls out.
Hell
on this one.
for leather, and it's even the fact that it starts. It starts with that lovely wee Looney Tunes animation, and then it goes in and it seems to be playing it straight. And then, like, once the Gremlins start, all hell breaks loose, and it's fucking spectacular. And there's fourth wall breaks, and there's self-aware jokes, and the whole thing is just one wild ride. Like, it's like, if the Gremlins could have, and I know there's kind of been chat about your Gremlins show and stuff coming, but if the Gremlins had their own Muppet show, this would be that this movie is like a taster for what the Gremlins, like Gremlins matinee show would be, or not matinee, like a, what do you call that? The Muppets
like variety show.
Variety show, yeah, it'd be the Gremlins variety show. Gremlins Power Hour, like.
Well, there is a show coming, and we'll speak about that at the end of the episode, rather than talking about it now. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is very much about the Gremlins in this film, whereas the first one was more about Billy with a few Gremlins in the background. This is kind of like, let's just throw as many Gremlins at the screen as we can. The
first one's kind of a metaphor for what Murray, the neighbor, Murray, the neighbor in the first one is kind of going on about Gremlins and the machines, and it's the foreign, and that's what the first film is about. It's about this notion of like Gremlins and our technology and how we rely so much on all of it and that sort of thing. Whereas this one, they were like, there's no meaning behind any of this. It's just Gremlins being Gremlins and fucking shit up.
I think there's not like a real deep and meaningful meaning, but there's definitely a theme going on here. I think where Dante and the writer decided that they would just take the piss out of Hollywood. They would also take 100%. They would also take the piss out of the technology age, because
technology, consumer culture, the
80s and going into the 90s was very much a boom in technology, and new inventions were being made, and a lot of things were becoming more accessible to families as well.
Yeah, is Clamp Tower Trump Tower? I was thinking about this yesterday when I was watching it. Is there parallels to be drawn between Clamp and Trump? I think so. Even the names sound fairly similar.
It's definitely, he's definitely inspired by Trump. John Glover as well, who appeared in our Scrooge episode 2 weeks ago as well.
He sure did.
He's actually sort of a similar character, because I remember him being a dick in this, but he's not that much of a dick. He's not
that much of a dick. He's a bit but he's not a dick.
He's definitely, like, obviously a businessman, but he's not like a real hateful person. I think it's more the Robert Picardo
Yes, he's the arsehole.
Is the hateful character.
Yeah, it's the bit in this when Clump is the gremlins have taken over the building, and then he's like, your man who is Dracula comes on the screen, and he just looks. Clump looks at the screen and he goes, Dracula.
I know.
Fucking just kills
Because he's
me.
obviously they're playing with the idea that he doesn't really have an idea
what's going
the
on
fuck's
with
going
his
on.
business. Mm-hmm.
You know, and I like that. I like that aspect to it.
So
but I just will briefly talk about the plot. Obviously, the cast are back. Zach Galligan as Billy, Phoebe Cates as Kate. Dick Miller is back as I Hate Foreigners, Mr. What's his name? Murray Futterman.
Murray Futterman, yeah. You don't mess with Murray Futterman. That's how he goes in to be all action hero like.
And then we've got some new cast members, obviously.
And his wife's back as well.
Of course, yeah, she's great in this. The legendary Christopher Lee's in this.
Oh man, I love seeing Christopher Lee and all the wee cameos, especially that one particular cameo. It's just like, again, he's cancelled now, but what a fucking moment in this movie! Like,
who are we talking about in this?
We're talking about the Hulkster.
Oh, of course. Is he cancelled?
He sure was he not? They not
I know
a lot of racist shit.
I see. Well, that's true.
Yeah, so he's not a good boy, but in this he comes to the rescue of the Gremlins 2 audience. Man, classic. I love that whole just fucking wild ride in that segment is one of my favorite moments, I think, of any kind of horror comedy movie, because it's just so like, what's going on? Like, could you imagine being in the cinema when this first came out? Because obviously a lot of those kind of fourth wall breaking jokes are played out to the audience. So could you imagine when this film first came out and it was in the cinema? I was -3 years old at the time. So I wouldn't have had the privilege of seeing it in the cinema. But the thought of all that happening and being like, what the fuck? Like, why this movie is being saved by Hulk Hogan right now?
It was big for me as a kid. Like, I'm trying to think. I don't know if I saw this one first before the original one, but I definitely remember more about this one. Not anymore, because I've seen the original so many times now, growing up and stuff. But when I was a kid, I remember more about the second one because Hulk Hogan was in it. I was a huge wrestling fan. I was like a proper Hogan mark, and that is especially at 1990, because that was kind of the year I was starting to get into wrestling, or maybe late. No, it would have been 90. Yeah, 90. So that image of Hogan just looking like that is the image I have of Hogan in my head. But yeah, even the start of it, when the Looney Tunes segment, like, that blew my mind as a kid. I was like, what is going on? You know, I know that was a popular thing, having a cartoon at the start of movies,
but again, it's because the cartoon plays out to you.
Yeah, it's talking to you. It's kind of referencing, and then obviously the titles come up, and it's kind of like, what the hell is going on? That blew my mind as a kid.
Yeah,
so much about this movie just blew my mind as a kid, and I didn't maybe understand it as much back then.
Yeah,
but you know, we talked about Christopher Lee coming on as the the scientist, and there's other great actors in this. Robert Prosky as Grandpa Fred. He's a fantastic, serious actor. He's done really good work over the years, but he's fucking amazing.
So good in this.
And he's basically playing Grandpa Monster. You know that
Grandpa
character.
Monster. Yeah.
What was his name? Al Lewis, was it that? Him? He's basically playing that character. And he hosts the the late night show. Or not really. It is late night actually, because it's 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
His show's been pushed back even later now to 3:30 in the morning. And he
they're gonna have time for microwaving with Marge, which again, fucking,
oh my god,
great segment. I love when the gremlin looks at the microwave and just goes microwave, but he says it in like a real vengeful, and you're almost like, is it that, is there some weird like muscle memory thing that reminds the gremlin in the first one dying in the microwave? Is that somehow encoded into the DNA of Gremlins?
I was actually thinking about that, because whenever they pop out, initially they know who Gizmo is, they know his name. So I'm thinking, has there been some sort of memory transferred through the DNA from the original batch? But is that even the original batch? And I think we're going to find out that it wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, with this TV show?
Yeah.
Do you reckon?
The TV show, I don't want to give away too much. I was reading a little bit about it. We'll talk about it near the end of the show. But it's a prequel. So
exciting. Now, well, I
Anyway.
was thinking about what could, how long is that Mogwai being about? Because the thing that gets me is at the start of the film, I love when they go back to the curiosity shop and they're trying to buy it off your man, and he's like, no, like, this is my shop, I'm not leaving. And then obviously they're like, oh, did you hear that cough? He's a fossil. It won't be long. We won't have long to wait. And then next thing, he's just dead. Like, he's just fucking gone. And Gizmo's sitting there like all sad, but still in his like little box. And then it's the news reports like, oh, he had all these rare items from the Orient. And the next thing, they just bulldoze into it. Like, they don't even think to take the stuff out. They're just like, fuck it. Scream
just
away.
take the building. I know, man.
Take the whole building.
What the fuck?
And then the fucking Tweedledum and Tweedledee abduct poor Gizmo.
What a coincidence that he turns up in the exact same building that Billy and Kate happen to work in.
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk that? What
the whole of New York City.
Thank God that happened. Otherwise, we would not have had a film.
We would not have had the Gremlins. You would have thought, because I was thinking about this at the start, right? So obviously in the Gremlins 1, your man, I can't remember what's his name, the curiosity shop owner. Wing collects Gizmo and goes back. But you would have thought, like, obviously Billy went through all that with Gizmo. You'd have thought in the years leading up to that, he would have maybe gone and paid a visit, like said to his dad, where was that curiosity shop? I wouldn't mind going to see Gizmo.
I think he did, because whenever he does meet Gizmo again, there's not that sort of like, oh my God, it's kind of like, oh, how's it going? So I'm
but it's
guessing
the fact that like
he did at some point.
He looks at the armband and he's just like, oh, what's this, a little black armband? And Gizmo's kind of like, and he's like, oh, your friend died. And it's just like, it seems really detached. It's kind of like, oh, you would have thought you would have been a bit closer and at least known that his old mate died. Like,
yeah, but sure, he's living in New York now, man.
He's a big businessman, big architect, architectural illustrator.
Living in a wee shitty flat above a grocery store.
Shite flat, yeah. And they're fumigating for rats, cockroaches. They're renovating.
I know.
That's that whole bit. That was a bit of an awkward, fumbly joke, I thought, even though obviously it's meant to progress the story, but I was just like, oh. But fuck, this movie.
I thought that the line that Murray delivers he's great in this. He's only in a wee bit.
Fantastic, yeah.
The line that he delivers after, he's like, "Oh, no problem. There's a whole lot of foreign bugs coming in this country."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Ah, you fucking."
He's got a fucking. I love that. Even though, like, so there's just a couple of moments where they refer back, so they really lean into the whole like him being like anti-foreign thing in this. Like, they really lean into it, but then they also have the whole bit where Billy's first kind of saying to everybody, look, we need to get out of here. There's gremlins, and everyone's sort of like, oh, wise up, how does that even work? And then he's in that room with all the ones who are working security cameras, like, oh, what if they eat 11 but a bit gets stuck in their teeth? And oh, what if and they're saying like all these different hypotheticals, and then the gremlin fucking jumps out of the security monitor board. That bit was fucking, I was like, fuck, I'd completely forgot that was going to happen. Again, self-awareness there. And then fucking Kate's bit when she,
I know,
don't talk to me about Lincoln.
I know. That was one of the funniest bits. I have to admit, that was a great bit.
Absolutely. And I love that it was able to like just take the piss out of the first film.
It was the way that she delivers the line as well. Like,
oh my God.
I think she's a decent actress, but she delivers that line and that story so well.
Kills it.
And it really adds to it. But yeah, so budget. We spoke briefly that
give me them figures.
It's 3 times the budget of the first movie, or approximately. So it's 50 mil, but it was a failure. It didn't even make its money back. It made about 42 million.
It's not. I mean,
which a box office failure doesn't mean that the film's a failure. Obviously, it went on to become this huge, massive film that everyone loves now. But obviously, they didn't get their money back at the time anyway. So that wouldn't have been a very nice thing if you were working at Warner Brothers. But there has been talks of a third film in the works over the years, and there's definitely the series coming. So there's a lot of money still left in this franchise.
100%. I think it's ripe for it right now with all the other sort of stuff turning into series or new movies coming out for them. I feel like the Mogwais could be making a big comeback,
100%, yeah, it's going to be massive. And another thing I loved about this movie, before we even get into scenes and stuff, is I love the cover. I love the cover art. The original cover art is amazing with the box and stuff, but this one always stuck with me a little bit more because it reminded me of Inspector Gadget. You know that sort of talk, or James Bond villains.
The armchair with and he's
smoking a cigar and he's putting the ash on Gizmo's head. And it's obviously supposed to be in the office room, of a tower of some kind. I just love it, man. It's just so good.
So good, Matt. What amazing, like, some of the images and stuff in this film I think are fantastic. One of my favorite ones is, when the channels are starting to go to the test cards, but the test cards are the Gremlins. And I think that's a fantastic image, is them just standing over with the, there's like an error going on, and it's just great, absolutely fantastic.
I love that it's set in New York. I love that it's set.
We moved away from that small town to big city.
I love that it's set in a building as well, because you can do so much in a building. And I think one of the things was, whenever they were discussing ideas about the sequel, they knew they had to go bigger, but they knew that they couldn't go full New York because it would be too much, having to close streets down
too
and stuff.
big. Yeah.
So they decided to come up with a building idea, and then, I think it was just an office space, and then they went, oh, hang on, they expanded it into a Trump Tower type building, where it was it's called a smart building. Yeah, in the movie, because
the first automated building in New York.
Everything's under one roof. The channel, all the climate control and all that sort of stuff's in there as well. So that was very smart. And again, it was a sort of play on the whole technology boom that was happening around this time as well.
Yeah. And it lends itself so well for stuff to happen in the movie. Everything that's in there has a part to play, even from the very start of the film, before the Gremlins have really even taken a hold. Sure, the automated turnstile doors that malfunction when your man shoves past Kate and he goes to go into them and he ends up stuck inside that.
I literally lolled, like, whenever, because there's a bit just before that where somebody kind of bumps through them in the street and you sort of think, okay, he's in a rush, whatever, it's not that big a deal. But when she walks in, the guy literally walks in and just...
Yeah, he's just like...
I lolled. It was great. It was fucking hilarious. And then he gets stuck in the revolving door. And I forgot. I was like, oh, why, that's right. Like, there's a lot of technology in the building, and there's a lot of mad shit that goes wrong, like the elevators as well later on and stuff. So it's funny. It's a real good sort of nod to the whole, trying to make money out of everything as well. And I think Dante wanted to do that as well, because obviously he was anti sequel, I suppose, and he was kind of like, oh, let's just fucking stick it to the man.
Sticking it to the man. I mean, even literally the one of the points later on, whenever the Gremlins are getting ready to go outside and they're having their big party and singing New York, New York, and there's one of the Gremlins getting like a tattoo of the Warner Brothers logo on his chest. And I was just like, for me, that was them saying, we're selling, the Gremlins have sold out to Warner Brothers right now. The fact that they're even putting the logo on their chest and all. What fantastic. I love all the wee moments that play out throughout that party. Like, there's so many just like wee references to pop culture and fantastic.
There's a great I don't know did you catch a lot of the announcements in the background? It's like whenever during scenes, whenever one of the characters would be walking to another room or walking through the lobby into an elevator or something, there was a lot of announcements happening over the tannoy systems.
Yeah.
I don't know, did you catch many of them? There was there's a great one where it's like because I think there's a cinema in the building as well. Or no, it's on the TV channel, and it's Casablanca now in color. With a happy ending. It's just like there's loads of that during the film. The references and the fact that it is meta as well.
So meta. Even it's that point whenever it does take the turn where it breaks the fourth wall, and it's they're in the TV control room, and it zooms in one of the screens, and it's like a film review program. And the fella's talking about the VHS re-release of Joe Dante's Gremlins. He's like, I don't know why we would need a re-release for this. A lot of people enjoyed it, but for me, I'd rather go through 2 hours of dental surgery or whatever he says, and then the Gremlins attack him. And then that's when the cinema gets invaded by the Gremlins, and that's when they're doing the puppets.
I know that guy was actually a real critic. who apparently shit all over the first film, and I'm not sure if it was definitely word for word, but it was basically a very similar thing. What he said in his review is what he says on the film. So
they just attacked him. They were like, "Come on, you can be in the sequel and get attacked by gremlins." That's great. But again, at least he had the sense of humor to be like, you know what, fair enough. Like, I shot in your first film, but I'll come and play a part in.
He's so nice, man. Yeah. He shit in the first film, and then they were like, "Here, we'll give you money to appear in it and take the piss out of us." All right, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. But fuck, what a great one. Again, the Gremlins doing the wee shadow puppets. When the projectionist comes down and he's like, "They've taken over the projection booth. All they want to watch is Snow White."
I know. I know. That's so good, man. It's so good. It was weird watching it, like, but it's like it just brought me back to my childhood and being like, "What the fuck is happening?" Yeah. Because I think obviously if you're at the cinema, it looks like a projection. Mm-hmm. But I think when they released it on VHS, they recorded a different thing for VHS.
Yeah.
And I can't remember I'm assuming it just looks like the tape got hit or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll have to YouTube that and see what it's like.
Look back and see. But even so, probably go back to early on. So Gizmo gets abducted by the scientist Tweedledum and Tweedledee, the twins, who are also working on cloning. And which again is a great wee moment. And the transport, the other scientist comes over and it's like, "Oh, I've tried to work on tomatoes that are safe to like transport," and it's like a bouncy tomato.
I know.
And then they look over and one of the gremlins like drinking the vegetable serum and turns them into like vegetable gremlin.
Well, now go ahead, finish what you want to say there.
And then all the gremlins that are created from there. I was
just about to say, the thing about this movie that stands out more so even than the first one is all the different gremlins. Yep. Rick Baker did the designs for this one. He wasn't going to do it, and then they said to him, "No, like because I didn't think he'd enjoyed the fact of coming on to a movie where somebody had already designed something and he was just taking over basically." So, but they did say to him, they promised him that you can design your own gremlins and that you can sort of basically just make your own personalities with these gremlins. And
it shows straight away. Like even the Mogwais are different. I guess in the first film, whenever Gizmo gets wet and all the Mogwais come out, they all kind of, apart from Stripe, they all kind of look
slightly
the same.
Different shade of color,
yeah,
but
nothing distinguishing. Whereas these gremlins have all the Mogwais and the gremlins have very distinguishing features. Like there's that one that's got the real hard kind of gangster face, and then
sort of big fat lips, doesn't he?
Big fat lip, and the big brow and all. And then you've got the one who's like the wee eyeballs are going everywhere, and even the bad guy, you know, the main bad one in this, who's like striped, but he's got like a spiked mohawk.
Yeah, mohawk, I think he's called.
But he's got like a sterner, eviler looking face than Stripe ever did. And yeah, there's definitely a lot more personality to be had with these gremlins.
I think the Baker obviously is, you know, as you know, we love Rick Baker on this show. He's one of the greatest of all time. Mm-hmm. He wanted to make he wanted to have somebody be a mohawk because he wanted to be reminiscent of Stripe, but he was adamant that he wanted the mohawk to be more reptilian and scaly and rather than being fluffy. But I just think, man, they do look a bit more evil in this one. And even though they go more comedy in the other spectrum, when they lean towards the evil, they do definitely look evil. And we talked about that one where when you first see the gremlin jump through the control booth, like that's a proper jump scare.
Pretty creepy. And I mean the violence and the gore in this film is definitely a lot more. Like whenever Clump shreds that gremlin, like yes, we kind of got the green ooze and the exploding gremlin in the microwave in the first one, but whenever he's shredding, like that one, that it kind of lingers for a good while on that gremlin getting shredded, and is quite, you know, it's gore, gremlin gore.
It's like there's more of it, but I think it's a bit more saturated. Like it's quite it's very bright green and bright red, so it doesn't feel as realistic as the first movie. Whenever the mother, you know, was putting the thing in the blender, and it's all that kind of dark oozy green. So I felt like it didn't feel as bad
bit more cartoony in this,
Bit
but
more
it
cartoony,
definitely, they lean in hard in the humor, but then also try to lean in hard with some of the horror. Like whenever Mohawk he becomes the spider gremlin, and he's got the hallway covered in spider webs. And is it Phyllis? What do you call his boss? The one that's trying to like.
They're not Martha.
Martha, and she gets caught in the web. It's just her reaction whenever she first gets caught in the web. This is different.
She's like Frodo.
Yeah, she's like, this is different, and she's just like flopping around, and then Kate rescues her, and that's when fucking Mohawk comes round with a big spider body. And that, I mean, the spider gremlin actually is a terrifying design.
It's great.
Like
what I love about this is you get the Mogwais that are different, and then whenever they mutate into the gremlins, then they're different again.
Yep.
Although you know who's who because of their faces, but then they mutate again once they get into the lab, and they all take the potions, and you get the spider gremlin, you get the bat gremlin,
electricity gremlin,
vegetable gremlin we talked about, and then Phantom of the Opera gremlin.
Phantom of the Opera gremlin is fucking incredible, especially that bit at the end when he's playing the organ. The gremlin dressed up as a wee princess comes over and takes the mask off, and he's like,
but the best thing about that scene is whenever the wee princess one looks back and it's like, at the camera just before, and there's like a wee sparkle, like a wee sound effect there. But and then obviously we get the best gremlin, sexy gremlin.
Fucking sexy. And even
Miss Piggy gremlin.
The bit that cracks me
Miss
up.
Piggy, I think.
Yeah, she's got that, and the big pouty lips and all. Fucking class. So funny. It's whenever Bat Gremlin. So we get Brain Gremlin. Brain Gremlin kind of ends up taking over as the lead from Mohawk whenever he takes the brain serum, and it's him doing the like interview and all.
He's great.
Which I love that, and he's he talks about we just want a society, and then he shoots the other gremlin, with me like air like the propeller cap on, and he's just like, why did I do that? Because we can. It's fantastic, and it's when he injects the Bat Gremlin with the UV serum so he can go outside, and then he smashes through the wall and leaves the fucking bat symbol in the wall, which again, fucking pop culture reference.
Warner Brothers love doing that. I mean, they obviously a few years after releasing this, Space Jam came out. Yeah, and they did it in Space Jam. They've done it a few times in other movies as well. They love to sort of play around with their own franchises,
put their properties in.
Just before that scene, it's the same scene, sorry, but it's just before the bat flies off. Whenever the gremlin grows wings, there's a second where you see Christopher Lee looking over and being like, and it's just like Dracula. Yes, I loved it.
See, when he walks in and all that going down, he's holding a big pod. And am I right in thinking that pod's from something?
It's like a big giant.
It's like a big leaf pod, but I'm sure it's from. Is it not from an old classic?
Probably is
horror film. There's some. If you know, put it in the comments below. But I'm near sure that that's a reference to something. But I have a fact. I have a Gremlins 2 fact.
Oh, brilliant!
So after Billy first goes into the Clamp building, when he knows that the gremlins are appearing, he knows that Gizmo's got wet and there's Mogwais and that they'll probably have eaten and that there's going to be gremlins, and everyone's like, way on. And the security officer first interacts, he gets bit on the nose by one of the gremlins, and Billy gets arrested, and Kate comes and bails him out. And whenever she's bailing him out and they're walking out of the police building, there's a load of mimes are being taken in by the police. If you pause those those mimes going into the building at the right time, I think it's the second mime that comes out of the police van. If you pause it just as he's stepping out of the police van, you see him, he's walking past the camera, and they're kind of doing like wee mimey robot moves, but he goes like this to the camera and fucking spikes it with the middle finger. Yep.
Wow.
You pause that at the right moment, you'll just see him swing the arm up, hit you with
I'm gonna get a screenshot of that and put it up on.
And put it on the Instagram. Yep.
I didn't catch it. I thought you were going to say it was fucking Bill Murray or something.
Yep.
In Mime. Isn't there a scene in Blues Brothers? Or there's a scene in another movie around this time, or maybe a few years before this, where there's mimes getting arrested, and they go through a police station or something. And I don't know if that was a nod to that, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've seen that before. Maybe it's just this movie.
Mimes in a movie, but it's just I remember hearing that and then going and watching it at the time I'd heard it and being like, "Fuck, right enough." One of the mimes gives the camera the middle finger as he's getting out of the van.
I love that you talked about the security guard. I love that that's your man from the Burbs.
Yeah,
I can't remember this
the neighbor.
It's just escaped me his name, but he's a fantastic sort of journeyman character actor. He's been in quite a lot of movies.
Been in a lot of stuff, but yep, he was Burbs with Tom Hanks. We'll have to talk about Burbs.
Can't wait to talk about Burbs.
I can't wait to talk about Burbs.
I also love that Robert Picardo's in this as well. He's worked with Joe Dante before in The Howling and Inner Space, and I think he's worked on a couple other movies as well. But as well, John Astin's in it as well, who played Gomez, the original Gomez Adams, in the black and white TV show. He's the guy that's trying to fix the water.
Oh, yes. I was thinking about that. Right, that scene where that's Gomez. What? Yeah, I didn't know that. But because I saw his name in the credits, but I was kind of like, I wouldn't have known who he was in there. But whenever that scene happens, and Gizmo's kind of standing about, like fannying about. Like, surely he should have known, right, there's water, I should back off. Like, I should get out of this general area. But instead, he just kind of backs up a bit. And then it happens again. He's like, oh, I'll back over here under this thing and it'll be fine. No, you should have just cleared that. If he just...
You could have easily went underneath the desk instead of just sort of stepped back a few steps. Yep. And we know you can run, mate, because we've seen you at the start of the podcast.
Yep, we've seen you prepare.
You can run, you can dance. We've seen you do it,
man. All sorts. You know what I do love in this film though is Gizmo being Rambo. Like, I think that's the best thing, is him doing his wee workout montage and then putting his wee bandana on and making the wee bow with the fucking Tipex fluid on the end of it. What a fucking... Gizmo is a wee hero, and I think it's fucking fantastic at the end when Clamp goes, oh, I see lots of these little guys with suction cup hands stuck up in car windows. Because you're like, that's exactly what happened after the first film.
I know. And they're still selling loads of fucking Gremlins toys now. Yep. I mean, I've got a Gizmo that I bought years and years ago, and you can get loads of different types of Gizmos. I'm sure you can get the Rambo Gizmo as well.
Probably.
I love I'm glad you mentioned Rambo, because he watches Rambo at the start.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene in the Curiosity Shop when the guy delivers the TV, and it's that scene when John Rambo says, to prepare yourself for war, you have to become more yourself, or something. I can't remember the exact wording. But then whenever he turns into Rambo later, that plays, that line of dialogue plays over, and I just think it's so funny. And also another sweet little moment is Jerry Goldsmith did the score for Gremlins, as we know, and the new batch, but he also did the score for Rambo. So whenever that scene plays later on, or whenever he's doing the montage scene, there's a wee sort of cue or motif from the original Rambo score that he did. So I thought that was a lovely little callback, because we love Jerry Goldsmith as well.
We do. Big fans. Big fans
of Jerry Goldsmith. The music in this is fantastic, as always. There's a great moment when the spider gremlin is mutating into the spider, and they actually play Angel of Death by Slayer, which I thought was kind of funny, because like it's mostly score throughout it, apart from Angel of Death, and then obviously New York plays in that iconic scene at the end.
The New York scene, and them all singing New York. Obviously, Brain Gremlins kind of leading the whole sing song, but the way the Gremlins are just like joining in.
And the overhead shot, which is a classic shot from... is it from? It's from that film, isn't it? Is it New York from the film? Or it's a classic shot anyway from the old studio films where the dancers would all be down and the shot would be overhead, and then they would hold up their feathers or whatever. But in this, they hold up the cards, and it's Sexy Gremlin.
The Sexy Gremlin. What's her name? She does have a name, is it?
It's just Lady Gremlin, or I think.
Is it not? But is she not now? God, because is the Gremlins fan following not giving her? Is it not like
Marlon or something?
Not Gloria, but it's something.
You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Has she not got a name like Gloria or something?
Probably right. Yeah.
And just the fact that she is the only living gremlin come the end of the film as well is just fantastic. Your man, the arsehole guy.
Robert Picardo.
Yeah, because I think it was It was again whenever Daffy's doing the "That's all, folks," and on his wee shield, it's like title animations created by Chuck Jones.
Aye.
Which again, I thought it was nice that they obviously have included him in that.
We know Dante's a massive Looney Tunes fan. He directed the Looney Tunes film.
Yeah,
which was okay.
It was alright.
It was okay.
It's fine.
I would love to see another. I love Looney Tunes. I'd love to see them.
Yeah, I haven't seen the most recent Space Jam movie. I want to say I've heard. I still kind of want to watch it just so I can say I've seen it, but I would like to see. I reckon Looney Tunes could make a comeback. I reckon they've done Space Jam now, so the newest generation of kids all know what the crack is with it, but then actually just go proper and show us like Looney Tunes as it should be.
I don't understand why there isn't another Looney Tunes movie or something. It feels like it's too big
not to have done something with it.
It's too big not to have something there. So hopefully I'll come back.
Yeah.
But we spoke quite a lot about different scenes there. Is there a particular scene that's your favourite that we haven't spoken about, or that you want to speak about a little bit more?
Yeah.
Is there any scenes that...
If we were asking the audience, and it was like, go to comment below, tell us below what you enjoyed.
You can do that. You can do that.
You can do that as well. I don't know. I think I've pretty much just gushed about, like, in no particular order either, about what we really liked. I really like it's the bit when we're kind of introduced to the scientists, but they haven't actually. We've obviously seen Gizmo, but we haven't been introduced to any other gremlins, and they don't actually know what Gizmo is yet. They think he's some sort of like lizard rat or something. And one of the scientists is showing off the electric rats, and it's like, oh, New York's full of rats, and what if they could power an entire block? But then Christopher Lee touches it, and he's like, oh, if only you could actually touch them. And then was it because Christopher Lee's character's a pretty bad, nasty man, the way he gets on. He's obviously there just to exploit. And even Clamp sort of says when he finds out about the bio testing facilities, he's kind of like, I told you that would be a bad idea. It's known that sort of thing is not dead on. But yeah, Christopher Lee is fucking just again spectacular in whatever he's in. I mean,
he's not in this that much, but he commands your attention as soon as he comes on the screen because of the voice, obviously. And
then he gets like a gremlin, like most of the way up his arm.
He basically fists a gremlin.
Yeah, right through the mouth. Through the mouth, folks. Through the
mouth. And then he dies, doesn't he? He dies shortly after that. But he's great in this. But all the lab scenes are great because I love whenever you see a character walking through the lab and you see something in the background and it's just a wee tiny silly thing, like you spoke about the big giant leaf.
Yeah.
Things from some sort of famous film. I'm pretty sure there's quite a few of that
there's a few references
in the background. And I love that whenever you get to that point in the movie where all the gremlins are invading the laboratory of the laboratory. And they all drink the serums and the spider serum and the bat serum and
but it's almost
so good.
It's almost like a callback to the first film because you think about it in the first film, whenever Billy's dad is at the Inventors Convention and you see the robot from Lost in Space, you see the time machine from the time machine. It's very obvious that they still, like, even then they were doing wee references to the thing. And yes, this film does it in a way that's not so subtle compared to the first one. But there is obviously this awareness of pop culture in both films,
we know Dante's he's a massive cinephile, like he matinee, and he pops up in this. Actually, he's one of the producers in the control room. I think he's got one line or something, but he popped up in the first film as well at the convention, and he's a massive fan of older movies. And you see it in this as well because he shows a clip of the octopus people.
Yep.
It's like a real dodgy 50s or 60s B movie thing.
But what about the fucking, when all the gremlins have been, so they're just about to drop the curtain and then a storm comes on and blocks out the sun So Billy and the gang have to think on their feet, and they decide, right, we're going to soak the place, and the gremlins all start popping their babies, but then they electrocute it. They release the electric gremlin who's been on hold in the phone in Clamp's office. Again, what a fucking fantastic when Billy first traps the electric gremlin, puts on hold, and then the hold music starts, and the electric gremlin's like inside the phone. But that moment, whenever they electrocute them and all the gremlins they kind of melt down like Stripe does in the first film, but a lot slower and more gooey. But that moment where they're kind of panning across them all, and we see like all the different wee masks, and the ones that are kind of iconic, we can spot them out. And then that wee one with the witch's hat on, going, I'm melting, what a world! Fucking what a moment! Like again, fantastic. And then we cut the Brain Gremlin, who's still kind of gurgling out the last couple of lines in New York, and those wee head drops. Yeah, because he was sentient. Like, I mean, they all are kind of sentient, but he was
a bit like the Magneto
of
the Gremlin world. He just wanted the Gremlins to be, a society.
Yeah.
But he knew that there needed to be a war to make that happen. So, but yeah, I love that scene where they all melt, and I love the Wicked Witch scene, and I just love seeing all the gremlins wear little hats and stuff, because there's a bit really
in the outfits when they're doing the the leg kicking, and they're all wearing these like Eastern Turkish kind of get-ups.
There's the bit really early on whenever the Goofy Gremlin cuts the electric, and he's wearing like a hard hat, and he's wearing like a denim shirt, and you're just like, where the fuck did you get it from? I love it though.
Little outfits. It's great.
He looks like a member from the Village People or something. The fucking so good, man. I love it.
Fantastic.
But a couple of the maybe not scenes. I love the scene where you first see Gizmo dancing when he comes out of the cage.
Yeah.
I just love, like, I'm nearly 4 years old and still seeing Gizmo just breaks my heart. Like, it just brings me back to being a fucking child, and I love Gizmo. I always will. He's just so cute. And
I think everybody, like, I suppose it's not really as common now, but I remember growing up when at Christmas time, Gremlins would be on like Channel 5 or whatever, and it would be put on, and that was that, and you'd sit and watch it, and you'd have a great time, and you'd be humming the wee Mogwai tune and stuff. And it's one of those ones that just it resonates with you. And I think Gremlins 2, as daft as it kind of seems, it still has that appeal and that draw to it for those characters. Even the Gremlins themselves is kind of, you wouldn't want to encounter one in real life, but you still kind of feel a bit attached to them.
I remember back and think, anytime I watched Gremlins as a kid, I always watched Gizmo, and it was painful to think that that didn't exist in real life. Because it was so well done that you sort of thought, you knew it wasn't real, but you kind of thought, oh, I wish Gizmo was real. It was like it was like whenever you wanted a dog when you were a child, and you didn't get one, and then you eventually got one, and it just it hurt so much whenever you didn't have one.
Yeah.
And that sort of reality of knowing that Gizmo wasn't actually real.
So what you're saying is you just really, really want a Mogwai in your life.
Yeah.
Somebody give Gav a Mogwai, fuck's
Please
sake.
do.
The boy's crying for a Mogwai.
I have this, and I have Stripe as well. Somewhere, he's sitting over there somewhere. So if I can get a real Gizmo, that'd be amazing. I'd love a proper Gizmo size one. Actually,
proper nice size.
I was this time last year when we did our first Gremlins episode, which you can check up in here or down here in the description. I actually did say, I'd love to get a real life Gremlin in my collection, and I did. I got one, so I was very happy with that. So if I'm sort of manifesting it, I hope I get a real life Gizmo someday soon. So, and hopefully it'll manifest itself.
Appeared.
Ding! There he is.
I wonder what Thorin would think of. Thorin would tear Gizmo apart. Would he tear a Mogwai apart? Are you sure?
Probably. Nah, Thorin's my dog, by the way.
Thorin is Gav's pupper, yeah.
My little puppy, but he's not aggressive.
He's not aggressive, but a little fuzzy thing walks in.
Yeah, he wouldn't like it. He wouldn't like it, but he wouldn't rip it to pieces. Nah. But I love the part. So I love the part with the door, the rude guy in the building when he fucking smacks the girl out of the way. I just thought it was hilarious.
Yep.
I love Gizmo dancing, and I love the critic as well, because I didn't realize, but that was, as I said earlier, that was a real critic. I love the projection sequence.
Yep.
But there's a line as well that Grandpa Fred says. I love him. I just think he's a great character. He's very grounded.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing, because he wants to be like a newscaster. He just wants to tell the news, and he gets sort of put into this role. You can tell that he's not really happy with it, and he gets his opportunity at the end, become a news anchor, which is a nice happy ending. But there's a line of dialogue when he's talking to Billy about horror films, and he says all the great horror movies are in black and white. And I just thought it was a nice, sweet. Again, that feels like a Joe Dante line, and it was a nice, sweet sort of homage to all the great films that came before this era of Hollywood.
Yep.
And he says that Mr. Clump likes everything in color. So, but yeah, there's a realm of truth to that as well. I think obviously we know all the classic black and white horror films.
Yeah.
I wish more younger people would go back and watch all those classics now.
That's
not just the obvious ones, not just Dracula's and the Frankensteins. Go back. That's
not even the younger generation. It's just people I know who would say, "Oh, I wouldn't want to watch that. It's in black and white." And you're like, "What?
Why does that matter?
It doesn't matter whether it's in black and white or not." It's like, oh, it just seems old. What does it matter if it's a good movie? Like, it's a good movie, and I think even
here's a key, mate. Free your mind. Like, stop being fucking a prisoner to all these rules that you've made up for yourself or society's made up for you.
Exactly.
You fucking dick.
Enjoy all things. Enjoy the lot. I even love it. I love in this whenever Billy's kind of goes to see him and he's got the bat on a stick. He makes him a bat on a stick, and again, it's a nice call to kind of the practical effects and just tacky wee things that would be in those sort of old horror movies and all. And even the wee sock puppet, the wee sock puppet dragon that he's got, brilliant.
That weirdly looks like a gremlin.
Well, boy, actually, one of my favorite prop pieces in this, and I wonder, obviously, I'm pretty sure it gets destroyed in the scene, but if it is out there somewhere, I want it. The Lego gremlin in the toy shop, the red and yellow gremlin made out of Legos. I was just like,
I thought you were going to say the gargoyle.
The gargoyle would be
that would be class.
Well.
Imagine if that was real and it was
just sitting in your garden.
Somewhere. Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be great. It'd be so cool. But no, whenever they're playing, the gremlins are playing with the toys, and there's the Lego gremlin, and it gets knocked over. I think it smashes into that gangster face gremlin. It gets smashed over his head. But just again, product placement and all in there too, and it's commercialism and all that stuff. But still, I would, if someone was say, "Here's that Lego gremlin from Gremlins 2," but give me, sell it to me.
So I'm manifesting a real life Gizmo, or at least a life size toy of Gizmo, and you're manifesting the Lego Gizmo.
The big Lego gremlin.
Sorry, Gremlin, not Gizmo. If anyone's out there that wants to send us that, please do.
Joe Dante, hook us up.
Hook us up, man. Definitely. So we spoke about a sequel briefly at the start of this show. There's been a sequel rumored for fucking years. Zach Galligan's constantly been talking about it. He says there's definitely a script. I don't think Dante's involved, but Chris Columbus apparently is involved. So
okay.
He's been interviewed about it, and he says that there is a script and that it's quite dark. So I think it's a bit more back to the dark, fantastical themes of
the first film,
movie. Definitely 100% is a series coming in 2022. It's on HBO Max, I think.
Okay.
And it's an animated series. I think it's about 10 episodes. It's set in 1920s Shanghai. So it's about a young Mr. Wing whenever he first encounters Gizmo. So he meets him. They become
He obviously has to make the rules. Yeah, they've got to figure out how the rules work and stuff.
I'm assuming, I don't know, Gizmo's the Mogwai, some sort of ancient creature that he discovers, and then
but I wonder
blah, 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 blah.
Are they going to play it for kids, or is it going to be? I'm kind of hoping if it was, say, the team behind the likes of Animaniacs or something, I could dig that.
I would imagine it would be like PG, pretty much in the same tone as the film. Like, obviously it's animated, so they could play around with. They've more room to play around with different things. But I would imagine it'll be the same sort of tone as the movies. Sometimes going back and explaining things isn't always the best way, to approach, a franchise or something like that. But I think it works.
For this, I think it'll work. Yep.
And I also think that this will be the launching pad for a new film. I do believe there will be a third film. I don't know if they'll announce it this year. I have a feeling that it's close. I hope to God that it's close.
Imagine they finished the TV series with like a trailer for the movie. I'd lose my mind.
Not a trailer. Obviously, they're not filming. They haven't filmed it. Like, but
nope.
That would be bad. Imagine
they filming the whole time.
Yeah, imagine the very last episode. They were like, "Why is this episode fucking 3 hours long?" And then they play the episode. And it's like, right now is the film. That would be crazy.
It just goes straight into a movie.
But the cast is a pretty good cast. Ming-Na Wen's in it, and BD Wong's in it, and also James Hong, who's fucking legend. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, James Hong, Ancient China. Imagine he was playing Lo Pan from Big Trouble in Little China, and they sort of try to mash those things where
Big Trouble in Little China
David
with
Lo
the
Pan
Gremlins.
Somehow, because of the supernatural sort of fantasy, aspect of it, he had something to do with the Mogwai.
The Mogwais are like one of his creatures or something.
They mashed these two fucking amazing 80s, not franchises. Big Trouble isn't a franchise, but these two sort of 80s films together, and the Lo Pan was somehow involved in the Mogwai's history. That'd be unreal. That'd be class.
I can dig it.
I will be disappointed if that doesn't happen now. So
we'll write angry reviews.
This film or this series didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so it must be shit.
I'm gonna shit on it.
I know. But no, that'd be an amazing crossover, and it'd be a funny crossover too. But yeah, we love James Hong. But anyway, big fans of the new batch.
We love
Gremlins
we love in general. Love Joe Dante.
As always, go back and watch the first Gremlins episode from last year.
It's linked somewhere around here.
We'll be definitely doing more Dante stuff in the future.
Want to do the Burbs?
We'll definitely do in the Burbs.
But not the Burbs.
Maybe not this season. Maybe
Sometime.
not next season. You'll just have to wait and see.
Just wait and see.
Because we don't know ourselves.
We never really know.
No, shut up. We do know time.
We do. We're organized professionals.
We have our next 50 episodes planned out. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
But yes, we will not be back next week. We will be back in 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks this season. So, but we would like to thank you for all your support and all the love that you've been giving us. We know we've been a bit quiet over the Christmas period and stuff, but life finds a way. So. But as always, go and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the Fright Club NI, and check out the website www.thefrightclubni.com. Check out some of our movie reviews, some of our editorials as well. We've got some stuff up there. Check out our shop. We posted some Christmas movie reviews recently, and you should check them out as well.
Yeah.
But whatever you do, if you repost them, don't ever tag the director.
But why, Gav?
Even if you think it was a positive review, don't tag the director, because I don't think they like that.
Why not? Why would you not?
Just in case they get a wee bit angry and send you a wee. Well, it wasn't a mean tweet, but he let me know he didn't like it.
He wasn't
and
a fan?
I was like, I apologize. Lesson learned.
Okay. Yep, won't do that again.
He did get back and said he was only having a laugh or whatever. So I'm fine with it. It's fine. Look here. It's fine. It's all good. We loved your movie anyway, mate. So not that he's going to be watching this, because he doesn't have a fucking clue who we are and doesn't give a fuck. But
tag him in.
We did love it. I'm going to tag him in this video. No, I'm not going to do that. Lesson learned. Don't be a dick. Don't tag filmmakers in your reviews, even if you think it's a positive review. But anyway, that's all we've got time for this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Monday Night Frights.
Yes.
Stay safe. Take care. All the best. Bye.
Bye.